Let me first start out by saying that my thoughts are with farmers in the Fraser Valley, our agriculture community. I know how challenging this is for everybody, and we've been here before. The good news is that we've learned a lot since 2021, and those lessons are already allowing us to be more prepared as we face this emergency. Our priority, of course, is to protect people, animals, and the agriculture sector. I've spent a lot of time over yesterday and this morning making contact with farmers personally. I've had communications by text, by phone calls, just checking in with folks to make sure that they're doing okay and hearing from them firsthand about what their biggest worries are. And I can tell you that the theme of a lot of those calls has been that, yeah, they're pretty worried, but they feel more prepared. And so I think that's going to be really helpful as we watch the next 12 hours play out. I've been talking with community associations, farmer associations, local government leaders and First Nation leaders, including this morning I had a back and forth with Chief Silver. Ministry staff have been working around the clock to be able to support the local emergency operations center out in the valley. We've had staff give that support through the night, and that includes any potential livestock relocations that need to happen. We've also been providing premises ID info to local government, which allows for everybody to continue to do planning. Currently, there are 66 farms registered with livestock under evacuation order, and there's an additional 99 farms with livestock under evacuation alert. We have our lab out there, our Plant and Animal Health Center. It remains stable at this time and it's fully operational. Last night we did lose power and we did have staff doing some sandbagging around some of our really crucial equipment like our incinerator, but today it's up and working. There's external backup power that's been brought in, so we can continue to do the work that's done there to support the agriculture industry. We know from 2021 the significant impact that this type of event has on our agricultural community. And it's really important for me to be able to reach out to these farmers to hear from them directly. I can hear the strain in their voices. And I know that they're replaying some of the events that happened last time. We have free resources available through AgSafe to support the mental health and mental well-being of farmers. That is something that we provide all the time, but I know right now we are making sure that we've got the capacity to support farmers when they need it. I can say that one of the examples from the dairy industry, which I think is a good news as far as preparations go. Since 2021, they've actually installed an emergency management specialist full-time, and they have been playing out scenarios so that dairy farmers in the valley can be more prepared. And I can tell you that the dairy farmers have been receiving emails through the night to make sure they're as prepared as possible. And I got an update on milk pickups this morning. All the milk has been picked up except for one farm, and that farm is expected to have a pickup later today. So the dairy farmers are being very proactive. I know that the poultry farmers also have an emergency management person in place. Had some conversations with vegetable farmers and some of our horticulture farmers, and they've told me there's a lot of standing water out in the fields, but at this time, they're also just nervously watching the next 12 hours play out. So my message to farmers and communities is that you are not alone in this, and we need to look out for one another, and we'll continue to monitor and support as needed. Thank you. I'm going to pass this over to David.
Thanks, Minister. Dave Campbell, head of the River Forecast Center. And I'm just going to provide an update in terms of current conditions that we're seeing around the rivers, as well as a bit of an outlook of what we might expect over the coming day or so here. So just really starting, this event has been driven by a fairly heavy atmospheric river event The focus point of that has been predominantly through Washington State, but we do find that BC is kind of been along the northern border of the heaviest rain that we have seen, and just acknowledging some of the heavy challenges south of us that have been impacted from this event. For us, we've seen heavy rain through the Fraser Valley up into Manning Park with rainfall amounts in the 90 to 150 millimeter range being observed since Tuesday. We've also seen additional snowmelt that's come down and provided additional runoff into the rivers, probably more moderate than could have been. And we've even seen snow accumulation up at the highest elevations with the Blackwall Peak snow pillow picking up a meter of snow since Tuesday. So quite transition there. We've seen now the Environment Canada and Climate Change Canada has dropped their rainfall warnings to the region, and the rainfall rates have eased. So we're in a situation now of really clearing that water through that has fallen from that rain. For most of the region, through the smaller and medium-sized rivers, so from Chilliwack, say, out to Hope and out into Manning Park, we have seen the peak of those rivers, and now we're starting to see those drop. We've got flood warnings in place still for the Fraser Valley, so continuing on the Chilliwack River, but also for particularly the Sumas region. And we've also upgraded to flood warnings for rivers draining off the east side on the Similkameen and Tulameen rivers coming into Princeton. We expect that the peak from that will come through fairly shortly as we go through the middle part of today before we start to see that water start to decline and that water moving through. So as we go into the next 24 hours or so here, the real focus point is going to be on the Sumas region, Sumas River. We've seen the Nooksack River in the Whatcom County in Washington has been at flood stage. It breached its banks late or yesterday afternoon, and that has led to spill overflow into the Sumas region since yesterday evening. We're anticipating, we've seen on the Nooksack River that the river is starting to recede. So upstream, that started to decline. We've just seen over the last few hours the gauge hit its peak at Everson, which is where the overflow takes place, and is starting to decline there as well. Given the time that it's taken to come up and back down, that river is probably going to be continuing to spill its banks and spill into Canada through the day today and into the early part of the evening. It takes a while for that water to move through, so we are anticipating to see the continued rise through the Sumas system throughout the day today, into the evening, potentially overnight, and really being into tomorrow before we start to see that whole system receding. So really cautioning that while some areas are improving in through the valley, the Sumas particularly, we do expect to see the potential for ongoing challenging conditions as we go through the day today. Looking at the longer range, we do have more weather coming towards us. Another round of atmospheric river and stormy systems coming in starting on Sunday and moving into Monday. At this point, still fairly far out in the forecast to understand whether that system is going to pose an increased risk to what we're seeing at present. But certainly looking at a longer phase of potential increased flood hazard through the region and continuing to monitor that system closely. And we'll be providing updates as we get a better understanding of how that weekend system will come into place, as well as how much time we have to recover rivers in the next few days here before that system arrives. So with that, I'll wrap up and I'll pass it over to Janelle State with the Ministry of Transportation and Transit. Thanks.
Thank you, David, and good morning. I want to start off by acknowledging with gratitude that I'm joining today on the traditional ancestral territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation. As I begin my update, I want to emphasize that ministry staff and maintenance crews have been working around the clock in response to this event, recognizing the critical importance of transportation for British Columbians. At first light, ministry staff and maintenance crews were on the ground, while ministry engineers conducted an aerial assessment by helicopter to evaluate risks and identify corridor impacts. I'm happy to report that while there are road impacts, we are not near the state of infrastructure damage that we experienced during the 2021 event. From these assessments, I can provide the following updates around highway reopenings. Ground patrols of Highway 1 through the Fraser Canyon confirmed that there was no damage, and the risk of debris coming down from the slope has subsided. So we've been able to reopen this road fully in both directions as of earlier this morning. Crews will continue to be active along the corridor to clean up debris through the day, but traffic impacts will be limited. Our geotechnical engineers have provided the authorization to begin clearing the rockfall on Highway 7 between Agassiz and Hope, allowing us to restore this highway to single-lane alternating traffic earlier today. There is no significant damage to the road, and ongoing work is focused on removing the materials from the roadway. Full reopening of this highway is anticipated by later this evening. Highway 99 between Mount Currie and Lillooet was patrolled this morning, and the risk again of materials coming down the slope has subsided. The road has been reopened. However, drivers on this road should continue to expect and prepare for winter conditions. Highway 1 in the Sumas Prairie remains open in both directions. However, overnight, in partnership with EMCR, we staged a tiger dam in the highway median, which can be quickly deployed across the highway, serving as a flood protection measure if water levels start to overtop the highway. While we don't anticipate having to deploy this tiger dam, contractors are on standby and ready to act should conditions change. I will now provide an update on roads that remain closed. Highway 1 eastbound in the Bridal Falls area remains closed as a result of a mudslide overtopping the highway. Ministry engineers have assessed the site from the air and confirmed that water continues to flow from the mountain due to high streams. We will continue to monitor this area to determine when it's safe for crews to begin clearing debris and necessary repairs. We expect to have a full update later today on reopening timeline. Highway 1, the Coquihalla, remains closed in both directions between Hope and Merritt. An aerial assessment has been completed, which confirmed 2 locations requiring cleanup prior to reopening. However, there are no other signs of significant road or bridge damage. An update will be provided later today on the reopening timeline. Highway 3 between Hope and Princeton remains closed. Ministry engineers were able to complete a partial aerial assessment. However, unsafe weather conditions have delayed completion of the full assessment. The portions of the road that were assessed showed minor impacts, and repairs are underway as we await further updates from the remainder of the corridor when weather permits later today. Highway 11 is fully closed at the Sumas border crossing due to flooding. This route was previously open to localized traffic, but is now fully closed. The ministry will complete an assessment once waters have receded to determine if any repairs are needed before reopening. At this time, we don't have an estimated time of reopening. We continue to see localized flooding in other parts of the Fraser Valley. Crews are actively assessing the damage, though a full inventory of impacts is not yet available. As the rain has stopped, the risk of ground movement is decreasing. However, with ongoing moisture and warm temperatures, an elevated risk remains, and ministry staff and maintenance crews are continuing increased patrols, and ministry engineers remain on standby for immediate technical assistance if required. In summary, while good progress has been made overnight with road reopenings, more work remains today for the Ministry of Transportation and Transit and our maintenance contractors as we monitor changing conditions, assess damage, and support road crews in their cleanup efforts. We will continue to update Drive BC with the most current information on the status of road closures. And with that, I will pass it back to you, Minister Green.
Thank you very much for that update. We'll now open it up.
Good morning. For media on the line, please press *1 to enter the queue. You'll have 1 question and 1 follow-up. We will start with the media in the room. We will start with No from the Canadian Press. You'll have 1 question and 1 follow-up. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm a reporter from the Canadian Press, and I have a question for Minister Lana. I'm curious, could you please tell me more about what happened to those animals on the 66 farms that are being evacuated, and what type of farms are they? Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question. So there are 66 farms registered with livestock that are under evacuation order, and the Emergency Operations Center and the associations that represent those farmers are working on a plan to deal with the current situation. It's a mix of poultry, dairy, hogs, and a number of other types of animals. But there's one of the things that I'd like to say about 2021 compared to now is that there's the type of communication has significantly improved. And so myself as minister, our ministry, local government, the associations, there's a lot more information that's flowing. And so we're all very up to speed on each particular farm and where they are. So yeah, I'll be able to have more updates on that as the 12 hours goes on.
And also for the poultry farmers, are their chickens are they all safe, or are their livestock they are all like very safe and sound? Or
I would say at this point in time, the animals are safe. Yes.
We will now switch to online. Keith Blandry, Global News. Keith, go ahead.
And highway into Metro Vancouver was closed.
Keith, can you
and
please? Keith, sorry, can you please restart?
Yeah, so for Minister Green, last night pretty well every road and highway connecting Metro Vancouver with outside Metro Vancouver was closed, even though, as the briefing made clear, there wasn't a heck of a lot of damage in many instances. So is this a result, were the closures a result of an abundance of caution, or is this a new policy going forward that when we have atmospheric river events and warnings that road closures automatically kick in?
Road closures are considered in order to keep people safe. It's not something that is taken lightly and is absolutely done to make sure that we're keeping the traveling public safe as they undertake their journey. For more details on assessments and the state of roads, I can turn it over to Janelle.
Thank you, Minister. Absolutely. We take closing roads with a great degree of care and consideration. We are certainly aware of different stretches of the corridors, particularly on Highway 99 through the Fraser Canyon, where there are historical areas where we know there's a risk of debris. And in those areas, when we reach thresholds of moisture in the soil, in the ground, and continued precipitation, it's at those points where we do make the decision to shut down the highway to make sure that we don't expose the traveling public to risk. So it's definitely a delicate balance between keeping folks moving, but at the end of the day, the safety of folks traveling through there is the number one priority. And we do rely heavily on our experts as well as our experience on the corridor to make those decisions.
Keith, have a follow-up?
Yes, for Minister Popham. Minister, you talked about how we're better prepared now for worst case scenarios than we were in 2021. Can you point to what you think is a single, if there is a single biggest change for the better in terms of being better prepared for a disaster than we saw in 2021?
Yeah, it's a great question. And what I've been hearing through the associations, through the BC Agriculture Council, is that it's the communications piece that is absolutely critical. Last time, I think, there was many things that snuck up on us. And this time, I think people feel very prepared. Installing emergency management specialists in associations is also a really critical piece of that. And as I said earlier, they've been running emergency scenarios over the last number of years. And so when it comes to moving dairy cows, for example, it takes inventorying the number of cattle liners that it takes to move from one area of the valley to the other. Right now, I think there's been a small portion of one dairy that has had to move its cows, but it's having the equipment in place, having a plan in place, and that really helps to alleviate some of the fears that farmers have, especially if we go into another event. Like, they're feeling very nervous, but they are continually telling me that they're definitely more prepared than last time.
Our next question is from Katie DeRosa, CBC News. Katie, go ahead.
Hi, this question is for Minister Green. Residents in the Fraser Valley are wanting more of a push on the Americans to better prevent the river from reaching into our borders. What more is the government going to do about that to coordinate with our counterparts in Washington State for their flood prevention?
Mm-hmm. We have, since established in 2023 in October, the Transboundary Flood Initiative. And that has been very helpful in terms of improving the communication and coordination across the border. Washington State understands that they need to work on flood mitigation and de-risking on the Nooksack. But that kind of work is definitely going to take time. In the meantime, we need to be more prepared on this side. And so some of that coordination and information sharing really helps improve our emergency response and be able to plan our flood mitigation on this side of the border.
Katie, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, please. To what extent has everyone been following evacuation orders, and what happens if people are not evacuating as if they are under that order?
Evacuation orders are absolutely made as a last resort. They're to keep people safe, to save lives, and keep first responders safe. The issuing of an evacuation order is very serious, and I know that the public takes it very seriously as well. We have good cooperation from people who are evacuated and under alert. This isn't the first time that we've been experiencing flood risk in these areas. People are really familiar with the outcomes that can happen. And so the public is taking this very seriously and is very cooperative with local governments and First Nations who are issuing evacuation orders and alerts. I'll perhaps turn it over to Kevin Dunbar for any additional information.
Thanks very much, Minister. As you mentioned, the vast majority of people in British Columbians listen to local agencies and local authorities when an evacuation order or alert is in place. And I think that's really, really important that people are prepared to have their grab and go bag, to have their plan. They listen to local authorities and take action when there's an evacuation order. Those evacuation orders are there for a reason. Is to keep people safe, to keep the public safe, which is our primary focus in any emergency. And it's also to keep the first responders safe as well. In this specific emergency, we do not have any reports of individuals not following evacuation orders. And we know that the local authorities, particularly in the city of Abbotsford, have been working tirelessly around the clock to go door to door, let people know about the risks, the evacuation alerts and orders. And all reports at the moment are that folks are safe, and that's something that we will continue to monitor and support our partners on. Thank you.
Our next question is from Mary Griffin, Check News. Mary, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. I'm just wondering, looking at the forecast going into next week, there's a lot more rain coming. How much of a concern is that?
I'll turn this one over to David Campbell.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think when we look at the next systems coming at us and even beyond Monday, Tuesday, we're continuing to be in the wet season. We've got a lot of antecedent conditions that continue to challenge the river systems with saturated soils and obviously snow, as well as just the response in the rivers that we're seeing right now. We do have a little bit of time to create some room in the rivers, particularly through the Chilliwack, Manning Park region. So we should get a fair bit of space from that to accommodate the next round of storms. So not as concerned about there at this point in time. As it comes to the Nooksack, obviously it's a more complex system, and clearing the water out of the various sort of flat terrain around the sort of Sumas as well as Nooksack floodplain takes a little bit more time. And so that might be a bit more sensitive as we come into the weekend. Again, the river itself is going to drop, so we're going to need to see a pretty significant event to get the river back up again to get into spill conditions. At this point, we're not seeing a clear indication of that in the weather forecast, but the weather is looking to continue to be wet. So I think at this point, vigilance is important as we go through the coming week, and we'll continue to be monitoring and updating our sort of level of concern if we're seeing that those events have the potential for more or ongoing flood hazard.
Do you have a follow-up?
I do. It just seems like yesterday, the atmospheric river, I know there were warnings out. There was orange for the Fraser Valley. There was yellow for the island, but it seemed to sneak up. And over time, people started to realize, wow, this is a significant rain. Or is that just my sense, or was there growing urgency that something was actually unfolding in real time yesterday?
Our folks at the River Forecast Center keep a close eye on not just precipitation, but conditions on the landscape. Most of the risk that we're seeing in the Sumas area is from the Nooksack overflowing its banks, which is has been fueled by precipitation that is south of the border. We continuously monitor those conditions. We have additional monitoring stations on the Canadian side of the border. It's really important for us to take a holistic approach, not just precipitation, but other conditions as well.
Our next question is from Peter Mitham, Country Life in BC. Peter, go ahead.
Hello. This is a question for Minister Popham. Just given the ongoing avian influenza situation in BC, how are ministry staff? What steps are ministry staff taking to both respect those concerns and also ensure that poultry are remaining safe from disease as well as the water at this time?
Yeah, great question. So that was the concern yesterday when our lab lost power and there was the threat of flooding happening. But our lab is up and running, and part of the really important role that the ministry plays is doing testing for avian influenza. That is, we're at full capacity today, so I'm not worried about that at the moment. The threat of avian influenza will continue to be with us for the next number of months, and that is playing out as well as this latest emergency. But I feel that as far as being prepared and doing everything we can, we're doing our best right now.
Peter, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, and I guess first, thanks for that. I guess I was more concerned with the flow of water and, of course, sediment from inundated land shifting around and possibly infecting barns. But at any rate, with premises ID, I imagine there's a pretty good coverage of that and pretty good compliance from the supply managed sectors on Sumas Prairie, but and the flood affected areas. But we're just curious, in light of the recent Auditor General's report, how has the deficiencies either been increasing the risk in this particular situation, or how does this particular event highlight the need for better compliance with premises ID, Minister?
Yeah, so the premise ID right now is working just as it should work. So this is a program where farmers are registering what type of livestock they have at what locations. This information right now is being shared with the Emergency Operations Center in Abbotsford, and it really allows the local governments to plan for their next steps in evacuation orders, et cetera, knowing what they're up against. And so I think that's working just as it should. Every time we have an issue like this, whether it's flooding or fires, it really puts a fine point that the registration that farmers are required to do with premises ID is absolutely the right thing to do. It just allows us to be able to respond to the agriculture community the best we can at our level and at the local government level. But it's working well right now.
Great. And that concludes our questions.
Thank you. Appreciate everybody being here for up-to-date information on emergencies.
And you were just watching a live press conference there. That's with Minister Kelly Green. She's the Minister of Emergency Management, giving an update on the latest in the flood situation in the Fraser Valley. So the ministers were joined by several technical experts, including the River Forecast Center. And I can give you a little quick summation of what we heard there. So the update started with the minister there, Kelly Green, noting that it was likely a sleepless night for many people who were affected. She gave the latest numbers. The number of people who are forced to flee, approximately 400 properties under evacuation order. But we've just heard from the city of Abbotsford, who have now put another 82 properties under evacuation order. So that number is now closer to 450, a total of about 1,800 and 1,900 properties under evacuation alert. The vast majority in the Fraser Valley, a couple in the Okanagan-Similkameen area. And then Green says emergency management centers are open 24/7. This is going to be a team effort to support everyone who who has been affected. She's recommending everyone have that grab and go bag ready, even for pets. So that includes documents like your insurance information. We also heard from Lana Popham, the Minister of Agriculture, says 66 farms are under evacuation order. We have several roads that are still closed. And of course, we're still watching the situation in the Sumas Prairie as the Nooksack continues to flood. We'll have more updates for you as the afternoon goes on.